I thought I was dying. There's no softer way to say it. My chest was tight, my left arm tingled. I couldn't take a full breath. It was a normal Wednesday afternoon. I had just walked out of a staff meeting, holding my coffee in one hand and my to-do list in the other, when the room suddenly felt too small, too bright, too loud. I remember blinking hard, once, twice, trying to make the dizziness stop. But it didn't. It got worse. My hand started shaking. My throat felt like it was closing. And somewhere, far off, I could hear my heartbeat like a war drum. Boom, boom, boom. I leaned against the break room counter and whispered to myself, "You're okay. Just breathe." But I wasn't okay, and I couldn't breathe. That's when I dropped my coffee, slid to the floor, and thought, this is it. I'm having a heart attack. People rushed over. Someone called 911. I vaguely remember a woman pressing a cold water bottle into my hand, saying something I couldn't hear over the sound of my own fear. By the time the paramedics arrived, I was lying on the tile floor, drenched in sweat and too dizzy to move. They ran tests in the ambulance, blood pressure, heart rate, oxygen. Then came the words I didn't expect. "Your heart is fine. You're not having a heart attack. You're having a panic attack." I blinked at the EMT. A panic attack? How could something so terrifying not be fatal? I didn't know it then, but this moment would be the first step into a completely different life, a life ruled not by failing organs, but by fear. Fear of the next time. Fear of not knowing when or where it might hit again. That was the day I stopped feeling safe in my own body. Before all this, I was the calm one. The steady voice in the room. The guy people came to when they were overwhelmed. I was productive, organized, and always on top of things. My friends would joke that I was the one who never lost it, and I believed that too. I worked as a project coordinator in a mid-sized tech firm in Chicago. It was fast-paced, but I liked that. I liked structure, I liked routine. Deadlines didn't scare me. If anything, they kept me sharp. I thrived on being busy, being useful. Mornings started early. Coffee, gym, emails. I had my life in a grid, checklists, color-coded calendars, reminders for reminders. There was always a task to complete, a goal to hit, a conversation to follow up on. I was proud of that. I wore it like a badge. High-performing, never resting, always pushing forward. Outside of work, I kept myself just as scheduled. Friends on. Weekends, calls to family, grocery runs, meal prep, 10 minutes of meditation I never really paid attention to. There was no room for chaos, no space for softness. Looking back, I can see the signs were there. Not big ones, not loud, little things. Like how I could never really fall asleep without checking my emails one last time, or how I'd rehearse conversations in my head before making a simple phone call, or the way my heart would pound for no reason at all during staff presentations, even though I'd done a dozen of them before, but I brushed it all off. Everyone feels stressed, right? I didn't know that what I was calling stress was actually the early whispers of something deeper, something darker, something that would eventually grab me by the throat and refuse to let go. At the time, I thought I was in control, but the truth is I was already unraveling, quietly, slowly, invisibly, and nobody, not even me, noticed. It started with sleep, not the obvious kind of insomnia where you lie awake staring at the ceiling. No, this was subtler. I'd fall asleep quickly, but I'd wake up at 3 a.m., heart racing, mouth dry, thoughts already screaming at me, and once I was up, that was it. I'd scroll my phone, check my work calendar, replay conversations from the day before. My brain wouldn't shut off. Like it was stuck in on mode, even when the world was silent. I convinced myself it was just overwork, burnout maybe. I wasn't the only one. Everyone I knew was exhausted, so I drank more coffee, pushed harder, kept going. Then the tension started. My shoulders were always tight, my jaw ached from clenching. I developed this subtle tremor in my fingers, barely noticeable, but always there. I started to fear simple things, not big fears, just unease, a weird dread before social events, a racing heart during routine calls, avoiding eye contact in meetings. I didn't know how to name it, so I didn't. I just told myself I was tired, overworked, under-rested, normal, but underneath that denial, I was unraveling. My body was sending signals, and I was ignoring every one of them. I remember standing in the grocery store one night, holding a loaf of bread, and feeling like the ceiling was about to collapse on me. No reason, no warning, just this sense of impending doom. I dropped everything and walked out. I said I forgot my wallet, but really I was afraid I was about to pass out in aisle 5. I didn't tell anyone, not my friends, not my boss, not even myself, really. What would I say? That I was afraid for no reason, that I couldn't breathe in meetings, that I left a movie theater because my heart wouldn't slow down. I thought admitting it would make me weak, so I stayed silent, smiling, functioning, pretending, but anxiety is like a leak behind the wall. You don't see the damage until it breaks everything, and it was about to break me. The day it finally broke me wasn't dramatic from the outside. It was just another Tuesday. Meetings in the morning, emails piling up, a quick lunch eaten standing, up in the break room. The kind of day I'd survived 100 times before, but something felt off from the moment I woke up. There was this tightness in my chest that wouldn't go away, a low buzz under my skin, like my body knew something was wrong before my mind did. I tried to shake it off, took a longer shower, drank more coffee, forced a smile through the 9 a.m. check-in. But by noon, my vision had started to blur. I remember blinking at my laptop screen, trying to read an email I'd opened 3 times, but the words just wouldn't make sense. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, frozen. My heart started pounding, fast, hard, irregular. My breath got shallow, sweat pooled at the back of my neck. It felt like a wave hit me, no, more like a free fall. One moment I was standing, and the next, the floor felt miles away. My body was buzzing, detached, like I was floating outside myself. I stood up too fast and stumbled. My legs gave out beneath me. I collapsed in the break room, knocking over my coffee cup. It shattered. Someone screamed. Voices blurred around me. "Are you okay? Call 911. Is he breathing?" I couldn't answer. I couldn't speak. All I could do was feel the crushing weight in my chest, the pins and needles crawling up my left arm, the terrifying certainty that I was dying. I saw the faces above me, worried, panicked, helpless, but they felt far away, like I was underwater. In the ambulance, they strapped an oxygen mask to my face, took my vitals. My hands were still shaking uncontrollably. When we got to the ER, I was rushed through triage. Tests were done. Monitors beeped. I stared at the ceiling tiles, trying to anchor myself to something real. Then the doctor came in. He looked at my chart, then at me. Calm voice, kind eyes. "Your heart is fine," he said. "You're not having a heart attack." He paused. "You're having a panic attack." I didn't understand. I had never even considered that. Panic attack? That's for people who can't handle stress, right? But my body had shut down, my system had crashed, and the scariest part, there was no warning, just fear. Pure, paralyzing fear, and no one, not even me, had seen it coming. After that day, I wasn't the same. They sent me home from the ER with a clean bill of health and a recommendation to follow up with a mental health provider. But my body didn't get the memo. It kept sounding the alarm even when nothing was wrong. Every strange sensation became a trigger, a skipped heartbeat, panic, a warm room, panic, too much coffee, full-blown disaster. I was no longer afraid of dying. I was afraid of the fear itself. It didn't matter where I was, at work, in a car, standing in line at the grocery store. The fear would slam into me without warning, and each time my brain would convince me, this is it. This time it's real. I started avoiding everything. No more elevators, no long meetings. I skipped happy hours, cancelled dinner plans. I told my friends I was busy, told my co-workers I was burned out. But the truth was, I was terrified. I couldn't trust my own body anymore. I'd sit in conference rooms, gripping the edges of the chair, silently counting my breaths to keep the panic from boiling over. I'd fake bathroom trips just to stand in a stall and calm myself down, and when the panic didn't come, the anticipation of it did. I lived in fear of fear, a prisoner of a threat that never materialized but always felt real. The worst part? No one knew. I still showed up to work, still responded to emails, still made small talk. On the outside, I looked fine. But inside, I was unraveling. Every single day. At night, I'd lie in bed scrolling symptom checkers, convinced I had some undiagnosed illness. I saw doctors, ran tests. Everything came back normal, but I didn't feel normal. I felt like a ticking time bomb. And the more I tried to pretend I was okay, the worse it got. I resisted getting help for a long time. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was fear of what I'd hear. Or maybe I just didn't know where to begin. But after weeks of living in dread, weeks of waking up every morning with my heart already racing, I finally broke. One night, I ended up sitting on my bathroom floor at 2 a.m., hugging my knees, sobbing silently into a towel so no one could hear me. I wasn't in danger, but I felt like I was. And that night, I whispered something out loud I had never said before. I need help. The next morning, I called a therapist. My hands shook dialing the number, like just admitting it made it more real. I didn't know what to expect. I thought therapy would feel cold or clinical, but it didn't. It felt like breathing for the first time in weeks. I told her everything, about the panic, the chest tightness, the obsessive health fears, the way I was losing control. I expected her to tell me I was broken. She didn't. She said calmly, "You're having panic disorder, and it's more common than you think." She explained how my body was stuck in fight or flight mode, reacting to threats that weren't really there. She told me my brain had learned fear, and now it was firing alarms without cause. The more she talked, the more I cried, not from sadness, but from relief. For the first time, someone understood. We started with small tools, grounding exercises, journaling, breathing techniques that sounded silly but worked. She helped me separate fear from fact, helped me name my spirals. Later, I visited a psychiatrist. I was hesitant but open. After an honest conversation, I started a low-dose medication. It wasn't a magic fix, but it gave me enough space, enough quiet to start rebuilding. And slowly things shifted. I began recognizing the patterns, started catching the panic earlier, started choosing not to run from it. It was like learning how to walk again. Only this time, I was paying attention to every step. For the first time, I realized I wasn't weak. I was human, and I was healing. Healing didn't come in a straight line. At first, the progress felt real, tangible. I was sleeping better. I could sit through meetings without clutching my chest. I even went to dinner with friends without checking the exit signs. But then it hit again. Out of nowhere, in line at a pharmacy, the familiar symptoms returned. Dizziness, tight chest, cold sweat. My knees locked. My heart thundered. I barely made it outside before the panic wrapped its claws around me. It felt like starting over. I remember sitting in my car, gripping the steering wheel, fighting back tears, not because I was scared, but because I was frustrated. I thought I was past this. I thought I was better. That's when I learned something nobody tells you enough. Healing isn't about never falling. It's about learning how to get back up faster. I called my therapist the next day. We talked it through. She reminded me that relapse doesn't mean failure. It means I'm still walking the path, and paths aren't perfect. From that point on, I stopped chasing the idea of being cured. Instead, I focused on managing, navigating, living. I developed routines that grounded me: morning journaling, stretching, no caffeine after 2 p.m. I carried grounding tools with me: small objects, mental cues, mantras I could whisper in a crowd. I started telling people the truth when I needed space. I'm having a rough day. I need to breathe. I'm okay, but I need a moment. And the most surprising part, the world didn't fall apart when I was honest. My friends stayed. My work adjusted. I found people who got it. Not because they read about it, but because they'd lived it too. There were still rough days, but they didn't destroy me like they used to. Now I could ride the wave, knowing it would pass. Anxiety didn't vanish, but it no longer owned me. It was a part of my story. Not the whole story. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening, for being here, for letting me share this part of myself that for so long I was too ashamed to even name. Living with anxiety has been one of the hardest things I've ever had to face, not because it was visible, but because it wasn't, because I looked fine, because I was still functioning, because I could smile while falling apart on the inside. Anxiety doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. And for years, I ignored it. Until it got so loud, I couldn't anymore. But if there's one thing I want you to take from this story, it's this: you are not weak, you are not broken, you are not alone. You're human. And sometimes, being human means breaking down before you build back up. If you're in the thick of it right now, if your chest is tight, your mind is racing, and you're scared to even name what you're feeling, I see you, and I want you to know there is a way through this. It's not fast, it's not easy, it doesn't come with a perfect solution, but it's real, and it's worth it. Healing doesn't mean your anxiety disappears forever. It means it no longer controls your life. It means you learn to sit with the fear, not run from it. I still have anxious days. I still spiral sometimes, but now I know how to ride the wave. And if I can get here, you can too. So to anyone out there who thinks they're the only one, you're not. We're in this together. This was my story. Maybe it's yours too. If this story connected with you in any way, if you saw yourself in these words, or if you've been hiding your pain in silence, please know this channel exists for you. You are not alone. You are not broken. You are braver than you feel. Subscribe to hear more real stories from people just like us. Share this video with someone who needs to know they're not the only one struggling. And if you want to tell your story, we're listening. This is Anxiety. Patient stories where truth finds a voice and healing begins.